All right, so here are the answers to number 10 and 11. For number 10, make sure you guys got true for your last piece. And for number 11, the final answer for this statement is false. Hi. Ivan, yep. Do you guys have any questions about this? Anything at all? Anything that I should clarify? Okay. Yep. All right, we're going to continue with the notes on this worksheet that I gave you. This is basically the same ideas that you have in the packet, but I feel like our notes packet is very wordy and lengthy with so many pages, so I simplified it, and we're going to go over it here. Okay? So this is notes for section 3.5. All right, a conditional statement in symbolic form looks like this. Can you guys tell me how we would read this? Yeah, it's if P, then Q. So a conditional statement is any statement in if, then form. Okay? If I'm a strawberry, then I'm a fruit. A very sophisticated if and then statements. So far we've already, established if P, then Q. You guys know the symbols for it. And for section 3.5, we're going to be working with the negation, not P, and not Q. Okay, so those are the things we already know. Here's a Venn diagram, and I've seen this Venn diagram on MATLAB. Do you guys not have this worksheet? Did I skip your table? Okay, so here's a Venn diagram, and I've seen it where it's like one circle inside the other, and the way that it works, P is always inside, and then Q is right here. So if you're in P, you're automatically in Q. So that's a Venn diagram for a conditional statement. Here's an example of a conditional statement, and it says identify the hypothesis and the conclusion. The hypothesis is P, conclusion for us is Q. So those stand for the same thing. If a polygon has 6 sides, then it's a hexagon. Basically anything that, follows the if, that's your P. Anything that follows the then, that's your Q. So how would we rewrite the following statement? Identify the hypothesis and conclusion, then write the conditional statement in if and then form. A 5-sided polygon is a pentagon. So if a shape has 5 sides, and it is okay if you change the wording a little bit, because these conditional statements should sound like everyday spoken language. So it is okay if everyone has a slightly different words that they've chosen. So if a shape has 5 sides, then it is a pentagon. The shape has 5 sides would be our P. It is a pentagon would be our Q. So here's what you're going to have to do with the conditionals in this section. The conditional is, here are the symbols. You guys have seen this before. If P, then Q with the arrow. Here is what you do to write the converse of this conditional. You switch P and Q. And here's what I mean by that. How would we read this? If Q, then P. So you're basically reversing the order of the statements. So the conditional is, if angle A is 35 degrees, then angle A is a Q. This is our P. This is our Q. Let's try to write the converse of this. If angle A is acute, then angle A is 35 degrees. So you're basically swapping, you're reversing, you're switching P and Q for the converse. Does that make sense? here's what you would do for the inverse. You don't switch P and Q, but you negate P and Q. So you always go back to the conditional. So the inverse, you always go back to the first statement that you were given, okay? Unless it tells you to do something to the converse. So the inverse of a conditional is going to look like this. Not P, arrow, not Q, which you would read, if not P, then not Q. Anyone willing to try this for me? Daniela, what do you think this would sound like with the negation? Try it. Very good. That's all you have to do. If angle A is not 35 degrees, then angle A is not acute. So you're just adding the negation into both P and Q and keeping the same order. P first, Q next. Okay? And then for the last one, for the contrapositive, you switch the order and you negate P and Q. So it's kind of like a combination of these two. So you got to switch it and negate it. So it would be not Q, arrow, not P. So you would read this, if not Q, then not P. And the statement for that would be, if, so I got to negate Q, so I'm going back to the original, if angle A is not acute, then angle A, I'm looking at P, is not 35 degrees. Any questions? If you guys look at your gold sheet, please look at the bottom of it. We haven't been using it at all, but on your gold sheet, if you look at the statements part, there is a conditional, if P then Q, you've got the symbols, converse, if Q then P, inverse, if not P then not Q, and contrapositive, if not Q, not P. And it looks like that, so you do have this available. What I would like you guys to do right now, on the back of this note sheet, I have two examples. For example 2, you actually have the conditional given to you. So this is what you're going to be starting with. And you got to write converse, inverse, contrapositive. And for example 3, you have this statement here where you have to write the if-then form first, and then put down the converse, inverse, and contrapositive. All right, so I would like you to try these two problems. I have my answer key up on the board, and the answer key to this is also on Schoology. All right, so give it a try, and then we'll do some more practice afterwards.